Well, it's a sports bonanza around this great state of Colorado, and the Big Al and CJ show is going to get into it all with my main man, Chad Brown, sitting in for the big fella. What's up, big fella?
Man, I am looking forward to this football weekend. Obviously, got started last night with the first game in the CFP, and then looking forward to chopping it up with you, my man. We used to do this together once upon a time, and now it's great to be back on camera, I guess, with you.
Yeah, you kind of kicked me to the curb like an old prom dress, but I forgive you, man. I mean, I got nothing but love for you, Chad. As you know, the big fella is Alfred is who the hell knows what Al is doing, man. He's probably in Thailand somewhere harassing the natives. Who knows? Who
Our
knows?
boy is mercurial, is a great way to describe him. He's elusive. It's hard to pin down.
That's a great way to describe. How you doing, man? How was your holiday?
Holidays were great, man. Holidays were great. Had some family in town here in Arizona for Christmas.
That's one way you can when you know that
It's always
someone
great to
was.
spend any kind of time with them.
Hold
But
on,
yeah,
Chad.
it was
Hold on,
neat.
Chad. You froze for a second when you began to explain your in-laws were in for Christmas, and you were about to say something that probably wasn't true because when people start talking about in-laws, what they say and what actually happens oftentimes don't match. They're going to see the show, so you're going to say something that's awfully kind and complimentary, where what you told me before the show wasn't that. But anyway, go ahead, man.
I said, actually, it was my parents who were in town for Thanksgiving. So, yes, it was great to see, my parents. My dad's obviously not getting any younger. So each holiday with him is always incredibly special. But hopefully yours were fine, family fun, and all the great things that we do around the holidays.
Chad, in fact, they were, man. We had a great time. And you said something that was, in all seriousness, so true, particularly for guys like us, as we are well into our mid 50s. You talk about parents. Both my parents have passed away and over the years. And but I find myself around the holiday season for those elders, those who poured into us and gave us so much as we were coming of age. They're aging. We talk about us aging, but they're aging. The way you define your pops not getting any younger, that I know exactly what you're saying there. And so I just wanted to give a shout out to particularly as we come out of this holiday season, all those folks that we honor and certainly should honor for all that they've given us, Chad.
And then I'll take it one step further. Now it's our time. I got together for a Christmas celebration with my wife's family. So just walk around the room and sit down with each of the nieces and nephews and, ask them all those questions, talk about school, talk about college, the same thing that I seen my dad do, the same thing that my grandfather did. Now it's my turn to do that, to let them know that there's somebody in this family who's concerned about you, wants to know about your life, interested in what you're doing. Yeah, now it's our time to take that mantle up.
That's real talk, man. We have become our parents.
Yes.
And it's crazy because I remember when my dad was my age, I was like, damn, Pops is old as hell. Like, I mean, like, dang, Pops is, and you think back and it's like, man, I'm that age now. I don't feel that way. Although that's how the world sees us, our nieces and nephews and sons and daughters. But you're absolutely right, man. It's just a great time to reflect on that stuff, man.
Yeah. And for you, stay out the club. Don't be the old man in the club. I know how you like to do.
Hey, bro.
They can stack right here in the goatee, man.
Hey, man. I ain't been in the club now. I hadn't been in that kind of club in a long time. Hey, look, man, let's get right to it, bro. Lot is going on, Chad. We got the Denver Broncos that we're getting to right here. But, of course, a lot happening up in CU with the new athletic director. We'll talk about that. Chad, coaching carousel, I think it will have an impact on this Denver Broncos franchise at a certain level, a certain point in the college football. I mean, you look at transfer portals and the madness and the craziness that's taking place there. a story that's sort of been unfolding for about a month now as it relates to CU and a transfer portal. Um, National championship game. You got NIL. I mean, college football, I think, is in a. It's if I had to characterize it one way or the other, it's in a bad place. But it's a bad place that I think was necessary in order for it to find its true higher ground. But we're going through the sausage making is ugly, man, and it's difficult to sort of digest. But we'll talk more about that. I do want to start, however. Uh, there's another point I wanted to make, man. I want to give a shout out to Kristen Brown for her to have the patience to deal with you on these Broncos post game shows. And I mean, I love how she corrected you, man. People assume that because you are the analyst and the 15-year NFL guy and the Pro Bowl and all that all that stuff that you know what the hell you're talking about. The number of times that she actually corrects you and she rightfully corrects you, I think is fascinating, man. So I had to give my girl a shout out, man, for one, dealing with your lack of accuracy on about half the things you say and on having the patience and the love to walk you through that. So shout out to my girl, man. I just had to put that little piece in there, man. I'm sure you can.
I appreciate the shout out. I'll pass it along to her and she will appreciate it as well. Yes, here on Guerrilla Sports, tune in every Broncos after every Bronco game for Bronco post game live. Me and Kristen Brown chop it up. And it's a little bit of a different kind of show because, she teased me up and asked me questions that maybe you were afraid to ask, or maybe your wife's been asking you don't know how to exactly answer it. So we certainly dive deeply into the Broncos game, what happened, all that stuff. But there's also a little bit of football 101, sometimes upper level football discussion as I break down some of these concepts. So yeah, she's done a really tremendous job. I'm quite proud of what she's done. And yes, I will give her props when she has to correct me from time to time.
More than just from time to time, but you guys do a great job. Hey, man, Broncos #1 seed going into the playoffs in the AFC. Of course, get a bye this upcoming week. Before we even get into the actual matchups, I want to ask you, who do you think the most favorable matchup for the Broncos will be, next week when they play their first playoff game? But the mere fact that we're sitting here, Chad, and we're talking about this team as the #1 seed in the AFC, like if you reflect on this season in the current NFL, what does that even say to you?
I think it speaks to the quality of coaching and what Sean Payton's been able to pull off. And so when you look around the league, there's obviously some new teams in the playoff this year. That's kind of the story of the NFL with their parity model. They always want to keep fan bases excited. But we have seen some good runs from teams over the last couple of years, most recently the Kansas City Chiefs. And now it's the Chiefs, their current dominant era is done. Now they have got to try to rebuild to see what they can build in the future with Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid. But even during the Chiefs' run, it was clear that they were an imperfect team. But now we've got an entire playoff filled with imperfect teams. And so this is maybe one of the oddest years in recent memory where no matter what conference you look at, whether you look at the divisional round next week or the wild card round this week, every team you can make an argument why that team should win, and you can make an argument why that team will lose. So I think from that perspective, we go into this football weekend really uncertain, not knowing what's going to happen, but to see specifically to your question about the Broncos, what Sean Payton's been able to pull off and have his team win as many close games as they have, as many different ways as they have. Clearly, the Broncos have some issues. Clearly, Sean Payton's not a perfect coach, but to instill that close win gene into the team, no matter what happens, we'll find a way to get it done. That's why they find themselves in the position that they are right now, #1 seed in the AFC, getting a chance to watch people play football this weekend, not actually have to play themselves.
And the crazy part about it is I don't know that that anyone predicted that this would be the outcome this year for this team. I think most folks would have or did predict or would say that they're a year ahead of schedule, at least a year ahead of schedule. But I do think it is a reflection of parity in the league, I guess you can say. There's not an outcome this weekend, or quite frankly, as I project forward, not even knowing who would be in a divisional round, that would actually shock me. There'll be favorites, but there's not an outcome that would shock me. Like in years past, if you were to tell me that, the San Diego or the LA Chargers would beat the Kansas City Chiefs in the divisional round, that'd be a shocking sort of outcome, given who Kansas City was and who the Chargers were. If you were to tell me, back in 10 years ago that the Patriots led by Belichick and that regime would get upset in the first round. There was some shocking outcomes that we could think of in the past. This year, nothing would shock me. Could the Denver Broncos win the Super Bowl? Abso-freaking-lutely. Could they go out in the divisional round? Abso-freaking-lutely, right? So there's no outcome that would shock me. And it just speaks to the parity, I think, in the league today.
Yeah, Kristen Brown and I sat down last night, printed up a little, ESPN bracket kind of thing. And, you do yours and I'll do mine. And so
wait a minute, you making Kristen work? You making Kristen? Kristen's actually.
Well, if she's going to be on the show, she got to do some homework. I prepare.
BS, man. Anyway, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but this is I got to get Kristen the call. Anyway, go ahead, man.
I prepare for the games that I call. I prepare for something like this. You might want to know some stuff. So before the playoffs start, here's your bracket. Here's my bracket. We'll have a chance to compare when we're all done with this. But we went to that bracket possibility. And again, as you go over each of the games, I suppose Carolina, in my mind, is the one least likely to win. But I can draw up a scenario because they've run the ball a couple of times in the second half of the season really, really well. They've had a couple 200-yard rushing games. So for them to somehow pull that rabbit out of the hat, they could find a way to get upset as well. But anyway, at any rate, to your point, anybody can win any of these games. But right now, I'm on the same page with you. I can see a clear path for the Broncos to get to the Super Bowl.
Who's the one team that the Broncos would have to confront that you would say, okay, as a second round matchup, that's the least favorable matchup, and then flip that. Who would be the most favorable matchup in your opinion?
Well, I think the Chargers being a 7 seed with Herbert being banged up, with their offensive line being banged up, they got injuries on the defensive side of the ball as well. I think they've squeezed as much juice as they can out of that orange. It's just not their year based on the injuries. So the Broncos were to get matched up with them being the lowest seed. If they were to win, that's who the Broncos would play. I think that would be a pretty easy win for the Broncos. But the next lowest seed, the Buffalo Bills, if Buffalo gets past Jacksonville, man, Josh Allen looking at a playoff scenario where there's no Patrick Mahomes, there's no Lamar Jackson, who has been the reason why he's not gotten to the Super Bowl over the last several years. For him to look at the playoffs and go, I'm the best quarterback in the playoffs. I'm the only dude this year in the playoffs who can win a game by himself. So he's sitting on his bed every morning looking into his closet at his Superman cape thinking, I'm going to put that thing on. I'm going to find a way to get this done. If they get past Jacksonville, that's going to be a tough game in my mind for the Broncos going against the Bills.
And that's the thing about Patrick Mahomes. About Josh Allen. Same with Patrick Mahomes. He's just not playing. Is that whenever those guys are on the field, regardless of what the odds are, what the odds makers say, you almost feel like they're the favorite to win, right? I clearly think Jacksonville is the better team. We've seen what Josh Allen can do in these situations. We'll see whether or not Jacksonville has the true chops. If you were to ask me, forget about seeding, forget about any of that stuff. You were to say, okay, CJ, just on the eyeball, who's the best team in the AFC when the season ended? I'd be hard pressed not to say Jacksonville, but it almost doesn't matter.
You'd be foolish not to include them in that conversation. They reeled off 8 in a row. But if you think this is 1 year too early for the Broncos, this may be also 1 year too early for Jacksonville. Rookie head coach, quarterback hasn't quite played at this level in the past. There's all that around them as well, but they turned the ball over on defense. They got an offense that's got some explosive playmakers. There's a lot to be said why they can win. I just think maybe it's a year too early versus a more grizzled, hardened veteran like Buffalo Bills and Josh Allen.
Sound like you got Buffalo in that game.
I do. Again, if Jacksonville wins, it's not going to be a shock or surprise to me. But I just think this is Josh Allen's opportunity, and he will seize at least here in the first round and get into the divisional round because he doesn't have to face, again, Lamar Jackson and Patrick Mahomes, who have knocked him out every year.
Who does the Steelers have this weekend?
Houston Texans.
I'll be honest with you.
Mm-hmm.
The Steelers don't scare me at all. The Texans do. See, I think the Texans are another one. Not to say that Pittsburgh can't beat Houston, because they certainly could. But if you're looking at if you're the Denver Broncos, here are the teams that I want to see advance. I want to see Jacksonville advance, even though I think they are arguably the best team in the AFC at the end of the season. But they don't have that guy, right? They don't have Josh Allen. I want to see Pittsburgh advance because I think Houston's defense, with the quarterback who's capable of getting hot and going off, that's an additional challenge. That's the challenge I don't necessarily want to see. And of course, I want to see the Chargers beat the Patriots. That is the perfect sort of outcome, I think, for the Denver Broncos. If you're a Broncos fan, projecting forward in the playoffs. So you end up playing Jacksonville at home. No, you'll end up playing the Chargers at home next week if that scenario comes true. So, I mean, but the margin is so narrowly thin. I think the Steelers are another sort of fascinating. Your old team, the team that drafted you, and you had so much, one of the teams that you have so much success with. I think they are, in terms of stories, that's one that, they lucked up and got in. Aaron Rodgers is their quarterback. Mike T is the head coach. They are the Pittsburgh Steelers. That brand has as much cachet as any in the National Football League. Very intriguing story coming out of Pittsburgh. I just don't think they got the dogs to do it.
They don't. They don't. Again, would I be surprised they find a way to win? No. But Texans' #1 defense in the league. And the Texans started this season and was one of the lowest scoring offenses in the NFL. Now they moved themselves kind of into the lower part of the middle of the pack. Now they're scoring about 23 points a game on average. So they've improved that. So if the Broncos were to face the Texans, remember they faced the Texans earlier this year, and C.J. Stroud got banged up, was out of that game. So right. That was the 6th game the Broncos had against a backup quarterback. C.J. Stroud started that game. So there were 5 games where the Broncos faced a backup quarterback going into the game. But that's the 6th game where they played a backup quarterback. So I think the outcome would be far more difficult for the Broncos to get a win if they were to play the Texans again. Again, that defense is just so darn good.
Yeah, and real quick on the other side of the ledger in the NFC, it's amazing how throughout the course of this year, I think everyone has sort of overlooked Philadelphia, and they just end up right there all the time. There's something to say about having gone through the fire. That's a team that's continually going through the fire. Wouldn't surprise me if they won the whole thing. Certainly wouldn't surprise me if they won the NFC. The sexy pick, I think, however, is the Rams, or the the LA Rams. That's the team, I think, with Matthew Stafford. You got Puka Nacua. Am I saying that right?
Puka Nacua, yep.
I don't know where the hell he came from. Hey, I don't know where the hell he came from, but Lord have mercy. This
Baller.
dude is a beast, man.
Yes.
I mean, you wouldn't get an argument out of me if someone said Puka is the best receiver in the league. I might disagree in the margins, but you wouldn't get a vicious argument out of me. That guy is
From a
special.
production standpoint, it's certainly worthy of an argument for sure. Is he the most talented guy? No, but does he maximize every talented fiber in his being? He does. Circus catches, regular catches, toughness, blocking, route running. He does all those things at an incredibly high level. Now, if this was 4 weeks ago, 5 weeks ago, I could see where you're coming from with the Rams, but the shine has come off a little bit here.
Yeah.
They played with their food a little bit last week against a team they should have just smoked. So I think the Rams have the talent. Matthew Stafford certainly deserves to be in the MVP conversation. That defense is really good. Puka Nacua can certainly change games by himself. Devontae Adams, who's a touchdown maker at the receiver spot, 50-50 balls turning to 90-10 balls when he's in the game. I just think, they've tripped up a little bit over the last couple of weeks. And if I would have a favorite over on the NFC side, it's got to be my former team, the Seahawks.
You know what? Like Philadelphia, the Seahawks is a team. We mentioned 3 teams in the NFC. Didn't even mention the Seahawks, who has the number 1 seed, and that team, that defense. And when they run the ball, that team looks like the best team in the National Football League. When they get their running game going a little bit, but again, you get back to the same thing. Playoff football is a little different. The quarterback makes a big difference, man, and I don't know if I can believe in him yet.
Sam Darnold has had a few too many multiple turnover games. I think for anybody, even the biggest Seahawks fan on the planet, has to recognize that potential is still out there. Even in that incredible game against the Rams on Thursday night, which I think my Seahawks won because I was out there raising the 12th man flag. I consider myself to be a lucky charm.
Did you raise the flag? Do we have any footage of that? Were you the guy up there looking stupid with the? What's y'all bang a drum or what do you guys do?
We raise the flag. Once the flag is up, we lean over the railing and we wave the 12th man towel and we get the people riled up. So I like to think my performance as the 12th man flag raiser was the difference. It ended up being a 1-point victory in overtime by the Seahawks. So that's all on me. I take full credit for that.
Chad was the 12th man flag raiser. I'm gonna get you a T-shirt, man, with that on it, bro. We're gonna rock that. We're gonna rock the 12th man flag raiser, my dog. But you're right. Seattle is right there, Chad. And so, I just think on both sides is going to be every game is I think going to be close, and any outcome, or there will be no outcome that would shock me. Now, you mentioned MVP. Before we move on, who's your MVP of the National Football League this year?
Oh man, if the 49ers had a bigger. There we go. Yeah, see, there's me raising the flag. Boom.
Look at my dog. I see you. Who's that with you?
It's Daryl Jackson. He was also elected to the top 50 Seahawks of all time team, just as I was earlier this year. See, the crowd's going bananas, man. It takes a special skill set to get that towel going right.
Is that what it is?
Yes, that's what it is.
12th man flag raiser. And oh man, that looks like a hell of a time there, Chad. By the way, I love that stadium. I've never been in a stadium for a game, but I've been in a stadium for a Kendrick Lamar concert. Man, that bad boy rocks, man. I love that.
It was acoustically designed. Paul Allen hired an acoustic engineer when they were in the design phase to ensure that was the loudest stadium at field level in the NFL. I know the Chiefs and that stadium go back and forth between who's actually the louder stadium. Usually raised by 1 decibel or 2 a year, but at field level, it is impossible to communicate in that stadium because that's how loud it is down there. Hand signals and all that stuff's a must. To go back to your MVP conversation.
Yep.
If the 49ers had a better playoff prospects, they weren't going in as banged up as they are, I think Christian McCaffrey would be deserving. Colorado's own Christian McCaffrey, over 1,000 yards rushing. I'm not sure how close he got to 1,000 receiving. He's been the backbone of that football team, despite so many injuries that they've had. But it's a quarterback award. MVP at this point is a quarterback award. You damn quarterbacks take all the glory when sometimes you don't always deserve it. So it's going to come down between Drake May and Matthew Stafford. Yes, we will get to that. I know it's coming up. We will get to that. So right now, my pick is Matthew Stafford.
That's interesting.
Yeah,
that's interesting because I like you said, if this were 4 weeks or 5 weeks ago, I think he was the shoe-in, right? And I love how you phrased it, right? They played in their food too much. They messed around too much. This is the perfect year, in part because of everything we've talked about, right? There is no dominant team. I don't think there is a dominant sort of player or statistic. Well, there's one statistically dominant player who I think would be the rightful recipient of the league's MVP this year. But I don't think the league and the voters have the balls to do it, unfortunately. Myles Garrett should be the MVP this year.
Yeah.
Listen, he broke the record, 23 sacks. He's a dominant presence. I mean, a dominant. You watching him play, despite how terrible his team was, watching him play. I mean, if they had anything offensively, if there was any balance to that team, they would be unstoppable. Unfortunately, teams are ahead. Teams aren't. He doesn't even get the number of opportunities to rush the passer that most teams get. And so to see what this guy has done, not just in terms of racking up sacks, but how offenses have to compensate for him every damn play, he's the MVP this year, man.
This brings up a topic that's, not necessarily on our agenda for today, but you think about the New Orleans Saints and how awful their roster is. And they've been winning games with Tyler Shuck as quarterback. Kellen Moore deserves in some ways to be in the coach of the year conversation, but that's going to have to be to one of these playoff coaches. That's typically how that goes. And so for Myles Garrett or for Kellen Moore as a coach, if you don't have a winning record, you can't be in this conversation for one of these big time awards. Now, there was once upon a time that Cortez Kennedy won Defensive Player of the Year award on a 2-14 Seahawks team. I think we are a little bit too, social media hype play savvy to allow that to happen again from a national award perspective. Myles Garrett may actually win that award this year. So he may be returned to the actual best player, not the guy who's on the best team. But we can dive into that in another show.
Yeah, no, I think again, absent, we're not talking about Josh Allen. We're not talking about the usual suspects who have a career of whose whole career has been a campaign for MVP. Whoever wins the MVP this year, let's say with the exception of maybe Matthew Stafford, whoever wins the MVP this year, wouldn't have necessarily. It's not Patrick Mahomes or Josh or Lamar. It's going to be someone relatively new to the award, and I just think this is the perfect year for the NFL to step out of its, sort of pre-made box that you obviously support. You got to have a winning team. You got to be on the playoff. No, he's the best player in the National Football League, and he should be recognized as such. That's all I'm saying, Chad.
Okay, but again, just looking at it, last time a non-quarterback won this award was Adrian Peterson in 2012. Peyton Manning got it in 13, and then Aaron Rodgers, and Cam Newton, and Matt Ryan, and Tom Brady, and Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, Aaron Rodgers, Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, and last year, Josh Allen. So, it's
boring.
Boring.
I mean, in many of these cases, we should just, all right, here are the three finalists. Before the season start, let's just designate the three finalists for MVP and determine which one of the three will get it when the year's over. That's in essence the list that you just read. I mean, there's nothing to that.
And I don't think any of these guys were a surprise when they won it. They didn't come out the woodwork somewhere outside of Matt Ryan in 2016. Tom Brady, Lamar Jackson, Aaron Rodgers, Patrick Mahomes, and Josh Allen have won this thing since 2016. So, it's a quarterback award. You can nominate those guys every single year at the beginning of the season, and you could probably win some money that they would all finish in the top three by the time the season ended up.
Chad, the coaching carousel has started, as it typically does at the end of each NFL season. Um, Not a lot of surprises, with one exception. John Harbaugh, the former coach for the Baltimore Ravens. I don't think Stefanski was there's no secret there, or surprise there. I do think what's a little bit surprising is he immediately becomes one of the hottest coaching candidates in the league. You know, someone is going to have to explain that to me. The situation in Miami, not shocking. A little bit sad, but not shocking what took place in Las Vegas. I hate to see a career that has been, I think, so good in like this. It does appear that, I mean, I think it was the right move, but I just hate to see
Pete Carroll.
Pete Carroll go out the way that he's going to go out here. But any surprises to you when you look at the coaching carousel?
No, even the Harbaugh move didn't surprise me. You're one place for 18 years. Your message wears thin. Your decisions begin to get questioned. Your hires get questioned and challenged. Other people in the organization start to think they know better. And a new coach comes in. So the Ravens aren't going to suck in the future. They didn't suck this year. They underperformed. And Harbaugh at his next stop, he's going to be a good coach. It was just time for them to part ways. And I'll just give you a quick story. My first 4 years was with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Then I went back to Pittsburgh for year 14 of my career. And I remember being in the team meeting. It's probably my second or third day in the team meeting. And I thought, this dude is telling the same damn stories that he told 10 years ago, talking about Bill Cowher. The same stories. And we had a bye week coming up, and I thought, I wonder if he's going to do that same thing on the bye week that he did when I was here 10 years ago, where he would get all pissed off during practice during the bye week and make us start practice over from stretch. And that's exactly what he did. He made us start practice over from stretch. This is bullshit, man. We're starting over from stretch. And so when I hear about these coaches getting fired as time moves along, I thought, yeah, because they've played all their tricks. They played every card they could possibly play. So I'm not surprised that Harbaugh and the Ravens parted ways. Again, it's more of an indicator of the time together than his coaching acumen, and somehow he forgot how to coach or he sucks as a coach. He immediately is at the very tops of the possible head coach candidates of all these guys who are available to become head coaches this year.
I agree with everything you said there. I do think the voice grows stale. And here's the crazy thing. He's probably one missed field goal away from us having this conversation about the guy who beat him. Right?
Who now may not also be safe. Mike Tomlin, he could lose this week and he could get fired. They could part ways with him.
And like John Harbaugh, I think for football fans generally, but for both of those, I think future Hall of Fame coaches, I would love to see the shakeup that puts both of them on a different sideline. I think it would add interject a bit of spice and excitement and energy to the league. Imagine Mike Tomlin. I want to see Mike Tomlin coach the Las Vegas Raiders. I want to see him coach the Las Vegas Raiders. I want to see John Harbaugh coach the Cleveland Browns. I think that would it would be interesting and new. I think both those guys will elevate each of those franchises. To what level, who knows, but I think it would give them instant credibility. And I think that would be good for the league.
I can't argue with those points at all, because those franchises need not some new, hot, young offensive coordinator who spent half a season with Sean McVay, which seems to be kind of part of the hiring cycle these last 5 years.
Right.
But dudes who have done it, who have built teams, who have rebuilt teams, who have gone through quarterback changes, have gone through leadership changes, all the stuff that those guys have done in their 18 years for Harbaugh and how many years for Tomlin. You know, they went head to head 40 times. Those two guys, they played against each other or coached against each other. So to see them go to those two franchises, that would instantly boost those franchises and make them better the day they walk in those facilities.
All right, now, Chad, this coaching carousel has could potentially have an impact on this Denver Broncos coaching staff. Of course, Vance Joseph, rightfully recognized as one of the top of being the in charge of one of the top defenses in the league. It's been that way the last couple of years. He's certainly a hot candidate for a head coaching job. One, as a former teammate of both of ours, where do you think, or what you think, if you had a crystal ball and you could make it happen, what would be the ideal place for VJ, one? And two, what impact might his departure have on the future of this Denver Broncos franchise?
Well, I feel very comfortable in saying in VJ's first opportunity with the Broncos, he was not given a fair shake. There was meddling up top. And so when you are the head coach and you get coaches foisted upon you that you didn't pick, when there are players who are, you are forced to play that you don't want to play, that's not a real true opportunity.
Right.
And so that's the past. So now I have to imagine from VJ's perspective, not hungry to get a head coaching job unless I get the pillars that are needed for success. An ownership group that knows how to do it, that's going to support me as a coach and not be meddling in the process. A general manager who I could be on the same page with, who doesn't think he knows better, but is willing to work hand in hand with me. And then obviously the quarterback situation, that's important as well. So if VJ can go to, say, the New York Giants, I know Joe Shane has left a little bit to be desired as a GM, but the Moore family has overseen multiple Super Bowl championships. Jackson Dart is a starting level quarterback who seemed to improve as the season went along, got to work to keep himself healthy. But if you go to the Ravens, obviously Stephen Bisciotti has seen multiple Super Bowl victories. The front office in Baltimore, they always maximize the draft. They're one of the best teams at engineering extra draft picks by getting compensatory picks, taking more swings at the plate so they can get more players onto the roster. Lamar Jackson is a former MVP. So I'm looking for Vance to go someplace where he can actually walk in the door, those pillars are in place, and he can prove what kind of coach he is, not just coaching the defense, but being a coach of an entire football team. But it's obviously going to be made much easier when those pillars are in place. Isn't it interesting that Sean Payton walks in the door and the ownership change suddenly gives him all the resources that he could ever need? There's a general manager there in Payton who is getting the players that he needs. They've got Bo Nix, the quarterback, and now they find themselves with the number one seed in the AFC. So if you can get those pieces as a coach walking in the door, it's going to give you much greater chance for success. I'm looking for Vance not just to take any job, but take the right job for him that can maximize his chances for success. And to go back to the second part of your question, there would be a massive departure for him to leave. I'm not sure who's going to be able to fill those shoes from a play calling standpoint and can create the kind of atmosphere that VJ has created. We talked about him initially being a leader of men when he first got his opportunity with the Broncos years ago. But when your feet are cut from underneath you, it's hard to really show that. But I think he's been able to show that now that he's been given the defense by Sean Payton. So I'm not sure how the Broncos fill that void, where Sean Payton would go from a defensive coordinator perspective. But then we also got to talk about Davis Webb. Davis Webb, the quarterback coach, he'll probably leave and get an offensive coordinator job. So This is what you have to deal with if you are a successful football team. People are going to take your coaches. And in a league where now, once again, 25% of the head coaches have been fired, there's going to be a tremendous amount of movement based on those head coaches, those head coach opportunities, and they're going to take some guys with them. So this Broncos coaching staff will look far different next year. I'm assuming VJ will get one of these jobs, and I'm assuming at least Davis Webb will get an offensive coordinator position someplace else in the league.
You know, Chad, it's so interesting how coveted these jobs. There are only 32 head coaching jobs in the league, right? In the world, there are 32 NFL head coaching jobs. And it wasn't that long ago when the conversation was always, hey, listen, no one has the luxury to turn a gig down because you never know how it's going to pan out moving forward. But I do think we're in that era now. And you alluded to this, where you got to be careful of what job you take. Ben Johnson, for example, a guy who was the offensive coordinator for the Lions, and you see how it impacted two franchises, right?
Mhm.
The negative impact that his departure had on the Lions, and the positive impact, him understanding the situation that he was going into in Chicago and figuring here's a formula to win, and accepting that job after turning down a number of jobs in the past. It'd be interesting with VJ, this being his second go around, because that job that you might not take was the job I think that he took, what, 8 or so years ago, 9 years ago, right? Because the Broncos job was not a very, it wasn't one of the better jobs for that year with coaching vacancies. Didn't have a quarterback. The franchise seemed to be, the ownership obviously was in the balance. The franchise wasn't very stable at that point. And to your point, getting into a situation where he couldn't really own his program or own his team didn't bear well. So it'll be interesting to see. And you're right. When you look at a franchise, one, what's the ownership commitment? Two, um, I'll probably look at it in this regard: ownership commitment, and who is your damn quarterback? Right? Even before GM, give me. I need a quarterback. He doesn't have to be a future Hall of Famer, just someone. And you mentioned the kid Jackson Dart at with the Giants, someone that the franchise and the fan base are all in on, right? So that's not something that's going to immediately derail your progress as a team, because half the folks are in, half the folks are no. But give me an ownership group that's committed, and give me a quarterback who can play this game. And I think that's the franchise you want to end up. I was hoping, not that I'm wishing that Zach Taylor was had gotten fired, but had that job come up because of his history in Cincinnati. I thought that would have been a great opportunity for him. Offensively, you got all you need as long as Burrow is healthy,
Mhm.
and he's known for building great defenses. That would have been, and interesting at the very least. Although, kind of going against my parameters, because the ownership can be a little. I can't even say cheap anymore. They paid players.
They
They
pay
paid the
players.
perimeter players. Yeah, they paid their quarterback. They paid those two receivers. So you know, but
And
it's
there is
interesting. I
a
think you do have to be a little bit picky, more picky than what we are accustomed to with coaches in the past.
Yeah, and going back to Cincinnati, let's not forget there's a former Buffs quarterback who is the heads of the personnel department out there, Duke Tobin.
That's right. That's right.
So you have to imagine walking in the door, VJ and Duke would have an immediate understanding and bond there as well. So yes, obviously you'd love to get all three: ownership, GM, quarterback. But I think if you can get two of those three, if you can get the front office GM on the same side and you got a quarterback like Joe Burrow, I know that situation is not available with Zach Taylor coming back. But to our overall point here, I think VJ is in a position where he can be selective with what opportunity he takes and does not feel obligated just to jump on something because somebody offers it to him. He did that before. I think he's going to be smart, far wiser this time.
I think you're spot on there. And hey, man, before we move on to our beloved CU Buffs, man, let your elder here hip you up on a little game, man, because I know, Chad, we haven't played a lot of golf at all over the course of the years together, but I know it's something that you wish you were better at. And I'm gonna give you a little insight, man. You see your boy, the big fella right there, man. Although his swing it's okay. Maybe if he lost about 30 pounds, it'd be a little better. But Golf Den. Now you travel a lot. You're always in the damn airport,
Yeah.
except on those times when you fly in private, which is probably 50% of the time, and you don't go through what us common folk go through. But when you're in the airport, here's what you got to do. This place, Golf Den, it is a golf simulation spot, a concourse mezzanine level. If you are, forget all the stress of, running to your gate and being, hating the airport, get there an hour and a half early, go to Golf Den. It is an incredible spot, man. Every time I go to the airport now, I make sure I got at least 30, 45 minutes to hit Golf Den. Go to golf-den.com. It's at the Denver airport. Can't call it DIA anymore. It's the Denver airport, DEN. Concourse A on the mezzanine level. Chad, And we had a blast, man. Every time I go in there, I have a blast. I'm hipping you up on game. Now, don't tell me I didn't get you anything. I know after the show, he's going to say, CJ, I didn't get my Christmas gift. You must have sent it to the wrong address. I'm giving it to you now. Get over to Golf Den, man. Get your game tight.
Okay, I've walked past it. I thought that's interesting. Now, it's flight delays are a thing, particularly here in the winter time of the year. And as much as I travel, I will stop into Golf Den and I will continue to work on my swing. So the great Charlie Parker, the jazz musician, he sat in on the set when he was still a teenager, and he was so bad, the drum player unscrewed a cymbal and threw it at his head. So Charlie Parker went back to his basement and practiced every day for a year and waited one calendar year before he went back to the set and blew him away with his skill set. So that's what my golf game is going to be like next time you see me on the course. I'm going to practice in the dungeon. You won't even know I'm working on my stuff. And then I'm going to just show up and blow you away.
You need me to pop you upside the head with a golf ball? We got to get this thing started. I mean, you tell me what you need. But in all seriousness, man, do go over there and get some swings in, man. It's a great place. And if you're out there listening again, golf-den.com, Golf Den. You won't regret it. In fact, you'll be calling me saying, CJ, I appreciate the tip, man, particularly this time of year when the weather's a little sketchy and you're not out there at the driving range or on the golf course, although this weather has been flat out tremendous. Check out my folks over at Golf Den. Hey, man, the CU Buffs, new athletic director. Now, Rick George is our guy. Love Rick.
Mm-hmm. Ricky G.
And I think the time is just about perfect for the change to happen. I'm excited about Fernando Lovo. He was came to us by way of New Mexico. He was a Lobo for about a year and a half as their athletics director, but spent significant time at the University of Texas. I believe he was at Ohio State with Urban Meyer in that athletic department, and he was the chief of staff for the Jacksonville Jaguars when Urban Meyer was the head coach there. So although he's only 37 years old, he has a good resume. But more than any of that, I think as a 37-year-older, you are, and I think this is the challenge of a lot of athletic departments as they try to adjust from what a department was charged to do 15, 20, 30 years ago and what the charge is today. This young man was reared sort of, he got his chops in the environment in which he's asked to perform and not having to sort of translate, a 2010 or 2000 sort of charge for an athletic department to what college athletics is all about right now.
Obviously, the seismic shift in college athletics, particularly in football, not to say that it was past Rick George's pay grade or skill set, but it's such a massive shift to bring in somebody who can understand some of the new blood and the new thinking. It's still difficult for me sometimes. I'm 55 years old to wrap my mind around why these people are making these choices and why these kids doing this. For a far younger guy, almost 20 years younger than you and I can see him being able to relate in a way that we
my age. I didn't tell anyone my age. You speak for yourself, bro.
Well, you already called yourself elder. So if I said I'm 55, people can do math. People can give the audience some credit, CJ. All right. So now the most difficult task I think in front of him is the fundraising. And so now on one hand, your youth may not necessarily be the advantage that it was in so many other circumstances, because typically it's the older folks who got the money. But if you want to get some money from Trey Parker and Matt Stone, the creators of South Park, who clearly love Colorado and love Boulder, maybe a younger guy walking in the door is a guy who can get that done. They just signed a $1 billion deal with Paramount. So maybe they're the ones who can become the sugar daddies for this program. And so for Lovo to think out the box a little bit like that, I'd love to see, because Mark Cuban is fueling the fire in Indiana. Well, let's get some other billionaire to fuel the fire here in Boulder for our Colorado Buffaloes. Because if Coach Prime is going to be able to compete, I know they're going with a different model this year with a little bit lower level football guys, trying to bring in a little bit more of a hungry guy who's eager to move up levels. We'll see if that plays out on the football field. But in the future, if we want the Buffs to compete in the CFP, it's going to take money to do that. And it's going to take getting the perfect transfer from Michigan or the perfect transfer from Ole Miss, the perfect transfer from Georgia. We need that one tight end to round out our offense, and it's going to take money to do that. So this guy's got that tall hill in front of him to get that done in Boulder.
No, I think you're right. And you look at Texas Tech. That's the program that sort of blows my mind, where an infusion of money from the pocket of billionaires put that team on a stage where it was one of the top. I mean, they had a bye in the college football playoff, in the college football playoffs this year. You talk about going from zero to hero almost instantly. That's the interesting thing about college football today. It's possible. We've seen it at Indiana, as you mentioned. You look at Vanderbilt, and I mean, for generations, Vanderbilt was just an afterthought. I'm going to tell you another one that if they decide that they want to be good at football, they can purchase it instantly. And that's Northwestern. I just don't think they've made the decision that they necessarily need to be. But any program that has the capacity, the ability to do what T. Boone Pickens did for Oklahoma State before NIL, obviously. So in a way, it's always been that way. It's just far more pronounced now because you're not just purchasing facilities. You're not buying the best locker rooms. You're not trying to paint the best picture. You're actually trying to buy the best players now. So it's a direct, right? It's directly to the bottom line. And so that is a bit of a void here at Colorado. No shortage of capable CU alum or folks who have interest in CU, but I think you're right. Fernando's job number one is securing the funding element that every relevant college football program in America has to secure at this point in the game.
Yeah, you can only do so much with social media and social media handles in the back of the practice jerseys and sell kids on Boulder. You can only do that so much in today's environment. But at some point, the conversation comes down to money. And I know Prime is going with a little bit of a different tack this year. You know, I don't want kids coming here talking about NIL. I want kids who want to play for the Buffs, which I think is great. And I think it's certainly going to go along the lines of building a cohesive football team, not a band of mercenaries. But again, if we're going to compete at the tops of college football, the money has to be there. And while that may not be the driving force for every kid becoming a Colorado Buffalo, it's going to be hard to ask kids to take half. You know what I mean? If Michigan's offering you $1 million and we can only offer 500,000, well, then that decision makes itself for you.
Right.
But if you can offer 750 and they're offering $1 million, well, now we're having a conversation. You're coached by NFL Hall of Famers. You get to be in Boulder rather than Michigan. I'm sorry, CJ, my bad.
I mean, why made that decision taking strays, bro? We halfway across the country.
You made that decision back in '87, so you were actually made that decision correctly. So I don't mean to dish your home state.
Yeah, you do. Yeah, you do.
A little bit. Yeah, as a Cali guy here. But I think that's got to be a part of the picture moving forward. I think we got to get the program to some stability first, but then we can start making those kind of moves in the future. And so that money is going to be a huge part of it.
No doubt about it. And we'll talk more about what that means for CU. I do at some point want to get into the dynamic, obviously, probably as much the second most important dynamic, one, fundraising, but two, that relationship with Coach Prime and the development of that and how that works out, I think is vitally important. But we'll talk. We'll have time to talk about that, and we'll talk. Certainly, we'll get into that more as we get closer to spring ball. But I do want to talk before we get out of here, Chad, about the national championship game, the Final Four, now the Final Three. Miami punched its ticket last night in a win over Ole Miss. I found myself rooting for Ole Miss because it was just such a good story, I thought. and really didn't have a dog in the fight, but I found myself rooting for Ole Miss, and it didn't turn out. But Miami's in. Then tonight we have another great game, a rematch. Did you call that the Indiana Oregon game earlier this year?
No, I had the Indiana in the Big Ten championship. I had them against Ohio State. Then I had Indiana Illinois earlier this year.
Well, that game is tonight. It's a rematch. Indiana was victorious earlier in the year, I think in Oregon, if I'm not mistaken. They were on the road when they beat Oregon. Mm-hmm. Since you've called a couple of their games, like I still think Indiana is the mystery team for most people. We've now seen them a couple of times, most people, and still trying to figure out what is it that makes this team so special. Of course, the quarterback Mendoza is the Heisman Trophy winner. What is it about Indiana that makes them so special? Undefeated 14-0, as you can see there.
Well, I think last year they were a Cinderella story. And then it became clear in the playoffs and then in the championship games that they were not up to speed with the best teams in the Big Ten. But this year, completely different story. We saw them handle Ohio State in the Big Ten championship game, in some ways out-physical them. They are great in all three phases, offense, defense, and special teams. Ohio State had the #1 defense in the country. Indiana was just a tick or two behind them in almost every other defensive category. They can get after the quarterback. They can stop the run. They turn the football over. As far as offensively, Mendoza can win games a number of different ways. He's had games this year where he's had 95% completion ratio, but he's also pulled out games in the last drive of the fourth quarter. So he's shown he can win multiple ways. They run the ball. Their coaching staff doesn't get away from it. They consistently sprinkle the run game in. And their coach doesn't want to do anything but win football games. He doesn't want to be in commercials. He doesn't want to do all that other stuff. He just wants to win football games. And they've created a great atmosphere because they've got so many older players who know what's at stake. Unlike some of these other teams that they've definitely gone into the portal. When Kirk Cignetti left James Madison, he brought a lot of James Madison players with him. So they were in the portal, but they're not new to his system.
Right.
They're not new to what he's trying to do. They're not new to the culture that he's built. His offensive and defensive coordinators, both those guys have been with him for 9 years. So in a sport where turnover and change, every year you got new coaching staff, every year you got a new roster, he's managed to figure out how not to do that. And so that's a big reason why they've been so successful this year. The true test for them is going to be in the future when he's got to go into the portal and can't bring kids who haven't been with them for a couple of years at James Madison with them. He's going to have to go into the portal like every other coach. But that's down the road. This matchup tonight is going to be a great game. Obviously, Oregon's got a dynamic quarterback. Dan Lanning is the best young coach in all of college football. He's had a chance, if he sticks at it long enough, to become Nick Saban with a string of national championships. They've got money, obviously, at Oregon. Phil Knight. So that Oregon Texas A&M game, Texas Tech game, that was Nike billionaire versus oil billionaire. And so now it's, I guess, a .com billionaire, Mark Cuban, versus a Nike billionaire. But I got Oregon. I'm sorry, I got Indiana in this one. I've seen so much college football this year. No one has been as consistent as Indiana has. No one has showed me multiple times that they are the best team in college football as they have this year. And so I think Oregon's going to be game. I think it's going to be a close game, just like it was last night. But I think Indiana will emerge as the victor.
Yeah, Indiana's last 2 wins were just flat out impressive. The way they beat up Ohio State and the way they just dominated Alabama. You're talking about blue bloods of college football, and this Indiana team just beat them up like they were the junior varsity. Now, real quick question, man, before I get on to the topic that you're just chomping at the bit for. Is that coach as weird in person as he looks, man, on TV?
He is. He's a football nerd. He is a football nerd, so he's intense. He's rare to break a smile. You're not going to be laughing and joking with him because he's thinking about football. If you're a media guy talking to him, he's going to give you the prescribed time, and he's going to be nice. He's going to be courteous, but half of his mind is thinking about how can I make my defensive line better? What kind of turnover drills can we do for our DBs to make sure we catch every interception possible? You know he's focused on that. He's not trying to get away from you to go chill in his office. He's trying to get away from you so he can go grind some more tape. That's how he's been as successful as he's been at multiple stops.
So we got to get more coaches that have that stupid, intense sort of, frown on their face, and all else is fixed.
No,
no.
There's lots of ways to win games. Lots of ways to win games. And you can be as nice of a human being on the planet like Tony Dungy. He's won a Super Bowl championship. Or you can be an asshole like Bill Belichick. He's won multiple Super Bowl championships. You can be a religious guy, Bill McCartney, our guy. Complete faith in God. And that's the lens through which you view life. And you can be other coaches who clearly don't look at life through that lens at all. There's lots of ways to win championships. But I think in your heart of hearts, you still always got to be a football nerd. You got to love the game so much that it's your all-consuming passion.
We absolutely agree on that note. Now, Chad, you say Indiana. I don't have a horse in this race as well. The quarterback, Dante Moore from Oregon, is a Detroit kid. So, I'm a little bit partial to that. But whoever wins this game tonight will face off in the national championship game against Miami in the Orange Bowl, which brings me to our final point here. Chad, I had the opportunity to do something that it wasn't a big deal to me prior to. It was cool, but it wasn't that big a deal. Of course, our guy Big Al was inducted into the Orange Bowl Hall of Fame this year, as you see the picture there. That picture up top with him next to Coach Mack, man, that guy isn't even recognizable. Like, I think, Chad, if people saw a picture of us when we were in school and now we're an aged version of who we were 35 years ago.
Right.
That's a completely different person. I don't know who the hell that guy is. But the big fella was honored, and it was a special time. Chad, I was actually invited back as well. 35-year anniversary of our national championship, which took place at the Orange Bowl, and they were honoring, at least recognizing some of the past most valuable players. I had forgotten I was the most valuable player of that game until I got the call. And so I went and – why are you laughing, man?
Okay, well, I've seen one of your license plates. I was driving behind you to an event, and I saw that license plate, and I thought, I wonder if his other license plate says OB MVP. I turned to Kristen and I said that as we were driving behind you.
No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't.
Oh, so you've only got the one fifth down license plate. That's it. That's your only.
And that was my son's. That was my son's work. He was like, Dad, just put 5 downs. People always talk about it. Just, and I said, okay, why not, Peyton? So look, be that as it may, man, I was honored. It was cool to be in that environment again. I had no idea. This I'm being serious here. It was a nostalgic moment for me, right? Because you move on, life goes on, and every year you get a year more distant from that moment. And I had totally divorced myself from just the feeling of what that was all about. But then to be back there at the dinner, the pre-Orange Bowl dinner and the luncheon, and hearing the stories and being part of all that, it was special, man. And I had to sort of reset myself on how big a moment that was for us, right? Like, again, I just kind of poo-poo it, but it was a nostalgic moment, man. I almost dropped a tear, Chad, just thinking back on what a special time for all of us it was in our lives. And to have been voted the most valuable player of our national championship game was an honor that I should probably be in closer proximity to as I age.
Go ahead and order that vanity license plate so you can, remind yourself every time you get in your car.
That's not who I am.
Okay, is there not a picture of you on the set of the Tonight Show somewhere in your house that you walk by?
No. In fact, I'm gonna tell you what's funny. That's another one. Like all these moments, man, that they feel like they were so long ago, and it feel like it was just a different life. Like I don't think of them, and I think I do probably my kids a bit of a disservice because we never talk about any of that stuff, and so it just kind of fades in the dark. But thanks for reminding me. What show was that?
The Tonight Show with Jay Leno.
Okay, okay,
Just in case you didn't know, and
again, it's
on the
lost
mental Rolodex and figure it out. Now, okay, happy for you, happy for Al to be in the Orange Bowl Hall of Fame. I just need to understand what the criteria is to get invited to this event, because as I recall, I was a leading tackler in that game. As I recall, I got the fumble from Ricky Waters, who ends up being a really good friend of mine at this point. And we don't ever talk about that. We've talked about everything in life, but we have never talked about that moment.
Were you guys ever teammates? Were you guys ever teammates
in Seattle for 3 years?
I thought so. Yep.
So we've done all kind of stuff, traveled, wives are great friends, kids are friends, but we don't ever go back to that. I don't want to bring up a painful memory for him. But so that short field that you and the offense got, score the game-winning touchdown, that was set up by me. And so while I could crow about one play, which was obviously a game-changing play, which made your participation in the offense all that much easier. We've all saw the first pass you threw, how awful that was. That was
you always bringing up you worse than Lisa, always bringing up old stuff.
So now you did get your stuff together as the game went along. You threw some nice passes, particularly I think one to Pritch on the sideline that could be classified as a dime. So I'm not saying you weren't deserving, but I don't have to go back very far in this show right now that we've done tonight. We were talking about the NFL MVP, and I was saying it's a quarterback award, and you were pushing back on the fact that the NFL MVP is a quarterback award.
Right.
But here, in this circumstance, when I clearly did way more than you did to ensure a Buffs victory, I am the deserving Colorado Buffalo MVP of that Orange Bowl. Anybody who's watched that game with a bit of a defensive or openness to what football is really about would say, wow, Chad Brown, 12 tackles. Wow, 2 passes broken up. Damn near knocked Rocket out the game. Ooh, forced a game-changing turnover that gave CJ and the offense a short field. That should be the MVP of this game.
Yeah, that's a strong case. Yeah, you close the case? I mean, you good there? You good?
I'm good there, yes. I will allow you to have your argument.
Now, you did point out my first pass attempt in the game, it was bad. It was a duck. I will point that out. It was interesting that you pointed that out about my performance that night and did not point out, ironically, the play that was eventually called back for a clip. Thank God. If I recall, the Rocket who received the punt and began to advance the ball upfield was met by, in fact, I'm not even going to tell the whole story. Had you made the 13th tackle, you might have gotten an MVP. No.
As I said on the 30 for 30, I could not be more grateful that flag was thrown on that clip on Tim James, because literally my whole life would be different. My whole life, I would have went into a football spiral. Maybe I don't even love the game anymore to cost my team the championship. So, we're obviously having fun and we're laughing and joking, but I'm serious about this. That would have been so painful and injured me in my football core, in my football character in a way that I had never been injured before. And by that point in my life, I won 32 in a row in high school. We won championships in Pop Warner. We were the Colorado Buffaloes. We were Big 8 champions. And so if that loss had fallen on my shoulders, I don't know if I would have been able to recover from that. So I consider myself to be incredibly lucky that did not go as it appeared like it was going to go. in my life.
But not to worry, Chad, because we still had 2 minutes. We'd have just gone back down and scored another touchdown, which would have solidified again both the MVP and the victory. So it's not a big deal, man. Not to worry, Chad. But by the way, you see, EB, that was the Orange Bowl program, I think. EB and Rocket Ismail. By the way, I think Eric and Coach Mack are the other two buffs that are in the Orange Bowl Hall of Fame to date. So you stay tuned, man. You'll get your call. And by the way, I think they got it right. If it were up to me, Big Al, all right, no one's going to argue that he shouldn't be in the Orange Bowl Hall of Fame. The MVP, well, I would have abstained from voting, so I'll take it. And you should have been the defensive player of the game, just like you said. Myles Garrett is likely to be the defensive player. I think the parallels are perfect, man. So there you go.
I will begrudgingly accept your nomination for defensive player of the game. If that gets me to the Orange Bowl Hall of Fame ceremony, I don't even need an award. I don't even need the plaque that Big Al got. Just let me sit at the dinner. Let me tell my story. Let me tell you how I was wronged by these people. That'll be good enough for me.
Right on, Chad. And by the way, I'm going to do just a little one-off, me straight to camera about what that experience was like, because it really was. It caught me off guard how it impacted me, how it touched me, being back in Miami and going through the whole sort of pomp and circumstance of the Orange Bowl. That was 35 years ago today. And again, shocked at the sort of the emotional impact that it had on me during that process. So stay tuned for that. I'll be doing that soon. Hey, man, as always, bro. As always, this has been awesome. Looking forward to doing more of it with you this year as well.
Absolutely. It's always great to spend time with you. And for those who don't know, yes, Chad Brown does rock. But those who don't know, it's just jokes. It's all love between CJ and I.
Oh, yeah.
He's like my shorter, smaller, younger brother, older brother, I should say.
There you go. There you go. There you go. There you go. The one, you know what? We can just keep. You started. We could just keep going. We can go on for about 30 more minutes, just going back and forth here. You want to do that, man?
We'll save some for next time. I'll come up with a few new ones.
There you go. From my man Chad Brown. In the absence of Big Al, I'm Charles Johnson. It's good to be back. Big Al and CJ podcast. Of course, you can catch Chad and his lovely wife, Kristen, on all the Denver Broncos post-game shows. And you know what, Chad? In fact, our next show, I got to get you and the big fella. I love when you two guys on the same show, because there's this love tension between you guys. I just love to just instigate. I'm just going to put my cards on the table, and I could say it up front, and you guys know I'm doing it, and it won't stop. It won't change anything, because you can't help yourselves. You both are so incredibly competitive, right? Respectfully competitive, that I just throw some red meat out there, man, and you guys just, I love it. You up for that, man?
I am up for that. CU has had an amazing number of great linebackers. And I'm never going to not say I wasn't the best. Just know that.
Don't never give that up, man, because as soon as you concede, as soon as either one of y'all concede that, then my fun ends with the two of you. So don't do that, man. Hey, man, we'll do it again soon. Chad Brown, Charles Johnson, the Big Al and CJ show. Have a great one, everybody.